Well, hello. My name is Tracie J, and just for you all who are just joining us, we have been playing and laughing a whole lot, so the giggles might just come back, and it's okay. But anyway, I am Tracie J. I'm the owner of the Quiet Rebel, and the intent of the Quiet Rebel is to incrementally and organically shift the status quo using conversations as instruments for change. Um, One of the ways that we have lived into that mission is through an event called 100 Voices, which is designed as a women's dialogue on race and culture, which so far we've done in Houston twice, and also in Seattle virtually. And we are scheduled for Portland, which is why we're here today. And there are some events also coming up on the East Coast. So exciting things. It has turned into an ongoing and national conversation when here I was thinking it was going to be a one-off thing that happened in Houston. So I am here with my friend Shannon, and she invited me to Portland. So I'm excited to be virtually in Portland. Right now, even I'm virtually in Portland because I'm here with Shannon. So Shannon, please tell us about yourself and how you found your way into the world of 100 Voices.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Shannon Jakes, as it says there. And I met you, Tracie, through my doctoral program in Department in Leadership in the Department of Management and Leadership.
Yes.
And even though it was just a little blip in time, I felt a major connection to you and your work, because we got to facilitate together one of the gatherings at the conference, and I love how that spark of what you were wanting to create has now turned into like it's a fire, like catching.
It's a fire.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful, and it's illuminating such a wonderful path. And so when you came to Seattle, and our mutual friend and colleague Megan was like, Shannon, join in with us. I was like, yeah, obviously I'm going to join. And just wanting to continue to help carry that torch with you is my hope for bringing this to Portland with you.
Yay. Well, I'm super excited. I have a cousin in Portland. I've never been to Portland, but it is on my list of places to visit at some point eventually, post epic meltdown of the world.
Yes. Post that.
When we are once again free to move about the country,
yes.
Then I'm happy to come and visit, but I haven't been there yet. So you have already once participated in a 100 Voices event. Will you share one of your key takeaways?
Yeah, one of my key takeaways was just how these conversations don't have to be scary. And also just that the realization I had this morning is that your questions that you created for the event are an invitation, not an interrogation. And the topic of race and culture right now is so supercharged that it's throwing me, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but into a massive void of vulnerability and ambiguity. And that type of newness can be so terrifying and bring up my own emotional armor. And I'm like, will not engage because it's too scary. But these questions that you've created are such a gift, and they're very disorienting. It's like, wait, where did the ground just go? I need to find it again. But it just resettled me and everyone else in our group in a new way.
Well, I want to applaud your vulnerability and recognize that. I also want to say that I had been saying from the beginning that I wanted this to be a safe space for this kind of conversation. And recently I've started to add, and also brave.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, this is a brave conversation. Sometimes when we think about a conversation as being safe, we think we're not going to get hurt, or we're not going to feel something because it's so safe. This is not that. Like, it's a big topic, right? And it's a thing that we rarely talk about in groups. It's a thing we rarely talk about in mixed company, right? Mm-hmm. We're taught to be polite, and so we don't have uncomfortable conversations with strangers, right? So in that way, it doesn't really feel safe, right? But we are going to push past what we've learned. We're going to push past our insecurity, our fear, our vulnerability, our fright on the subject, and we're going to have a brave conversation. Now, it is also still a safe conversation because no one in this space is here to hurt you. Mm-hmm. It is safe because we have agreed that we are going to seek the best intentions from one another and from ourselves. And because once we leave the space, no one is retelling your story. The stories stay in the room. So in that way, it is safe. It is safe and it is brave. But I just want to be sure that we are clear about what we mean about safe and what we mean about brave.
Love that. Yeah. And also what I feel like is being exposed is just that no one is a monolith. No group of humans have the same experience of anything. And your questions also that you've created, it's like, okay, I could take this to whatever level I want. And it can be surface or it can go to a very deep place. And I think that's also some of the magic that you have created for people. And just the 100 Voices for me is more about the intersectionality of people, as you have said, Tracie, that have not walked this earth with the privilege of being perceived as a male. And I feel like that's where, for lack of a better term, womanhood is a special space for intersecting, and that's an opening that you've created.
I like to believe that is true. Sometimes there is pushback, for lack of a better term, because it seems exclusive, that it's a women's event. One, I'm a woman. I identify as a woman. That is the life I've lived, and it's not a thing I escape or want to change, right? And so I have a personal lived experience that speaks to womanhood, right? So that's my personal bias. It is the lens through which I view the world, and I own it, right? Mm-hmm. Also, though, in the common culture of America, the dominant voice tends to be male. Mm-hmm. And so the privilege that comes with being male, one of the things that we find in a room where the genders intersect is that the male voice rises to the top, even if it's not the smartest or the one we should be hearing. No particular man is being attacked in this statement. It's just a thing that we observe. Oftentimes also female voices, because of our conditioning, we tend to defer to the male voice in the room. And so as a way to eliminate perhaps one barrier to an already complicated situation, I opted to have women only or women identifying events.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because the world cracked open and
It did.
and the topic of race and culture has become the forefront of most conversations that people are having right now outside of COVID-19.
Yeah.
The space for this conversation is expanding, and there are opportunities as well for men or male identifying people to also participate. It's just in this particular event, the 100 Voices event, it is specifically designed for women and female identifying people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think also like the world cracking open and just the COVID virus also has brought these more latent patterns and more latent, like, quiet narratives to the majority. They're like, hello, exposure. And I think it's interesting when people say, like, we've learned nothing and we're repeating ourselves, which is like a yes and, because like I, as a queer person, I would never want to live anywhere further back in history. Like, I want to be right here. And I know that. And so just thinking of like the spiral, right, of how, yes, we're saying the same things, but we are entering these conversations with more awareness now than ever before in history. And I feel like that's like sort of the gift of the paradox of like the fact that this is sort of a gift, and that we're all like, I feel awful, and it's like, that's so good, everyone should feel awful, not just like some people.
Right, let us all feel awful together, and let us use that awful feeling to change the world.
Yes.
Right?
What are you, like, if I may ask you a question?
Absolutely, please.
Where do you see 100 Voices, like, at the end of this year? Like, what is are you walking with this platform with a like bigger picture intention, or where do you sit with that?
So as it grows organically, I am growing with it. And so one of the things that happened, so for Houston, I wanted to have this event. It was face-to-face. I was very excited about bringing 100 women into a space to have this conversation face-to-face. And I thought, when I hosted the event in Houston, that at best it would be an annual event that I would do in Houston. And it has already proven me wrong multiple times in that way. Mm-hmm. Another thing that happened after the first event in Houston that I didn't entirely anticipate was that the women who showed up really wanted to continue. They were like, okay, now you open this up. Where do we go? What do we do next? Right? So I've been working to figure out what that next looks like. And so it's an ever evolving thing. And for me to say, oh, by December, we're going to have, 25 100 Voices events. And I don't know. I am grateful that this conversation is necessary. I'm grateful that other people recognize this necessity. I am grateful for invitations to continue to have this dialogue wherever they take us. And I'm also really, really grateful for the people who have come alongside of me, like Shannon, and said, like, how can I help you? Like, what does it look like for me to help you, to support you in this work? And so all of a sudden, it's not just my voice. All of a sudden, it's not just my work. It is the work of many, many people behind the scenes who help to keep this ship going, and who are helping to create what's next.
Well, and I feel like that's just part of your magic too, is being able to sit with the emergent growth of this platform. And I always say that like my love language is question asking. And I feel like people might not realize that, but there's like a shift happening in that, like in my research and everything that I'm doing. It's not about coming in and being like, I have the answer, everyone is the same. It's more of entering a space and being like, questions, let me ask, and then move forward and have it fill in the space that way. And that's why what you've created is like so like so like obvious, but it's shocking how many people don't live their lives like that. And it's like, I also love how I feel like one of the main narratives is, for me as a white person, is like, do your work, don't ask questions of people of color. That's not your job. And but I feel like your space is like, yes, do your work, but also like we have to also like talk to each other.
We have to also talk.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just use a scenario, right? Shannon, you're gonna go to medical school.
Yeah.
You're gonna read all the medical books. You're gonna learn all there is to learn about medicine, and then you're never ever gonna practice it. How does that work? How does that work? How does that work? It can't work, right? So you can go to all the trainings. You can read all the books. You can watch all the movies. You can have all that knowledge. But if you do not interact with real people and apply this knowledge and test out yourself in a space where there are people who don't look like you.
Yep.
And not just because you work with them, right? Because that's a whole different kind of interaction.
Yep.
We go to work with people, we know very little about them. We know how they work. We know if they're capable of their job, maybe. Right? I mean, in real life, because we don't always investigate that fully.
Yeah.
We make assumptions about a person's capability based on how they look, or based on how they got the job, or all the other stories that are happening behind the scenes.
Yep.
Right? And we spend a lot of time with each other, but that time is focused on a task, and we're not always seeing the humanity in that other person just because we work with them.
Yep.
Right? And so then if a thing that is really human happens to somebody that you work with, for instance, their parent dies, right? Then suddenly you can see their humanity, whereas you may not have seen it before, right? But because you're having this experience that you recognize as human, and you know that maybe both of your parents are still alive, and you just know what it would feel like to you if you lost a parent, right? So then you have this space where there's empathy and where there's understanding, and where you can suddenly relate to this person differently, because now you don't see them just as your coworker, you see them as human.
Yeah.
Right? And so that is what I'm hoping happens in all the conversations that we host, is that we're having an opportunity to hear someone's lived experience and see their humanity.
And also like seeing perhaps our own humanity and our own presence in all of this. Because as you were alluding to before, like I need to make sure to be nice, like that's my programming, and how like not helpful that is. Hello? Wake up, Shannon.
Now, we're not saying don't be nice, Shannon.
Right.
Actually, I am saying don't be nice. I'm saying be kind. Be kind. Because kindness is different from being nice. Right? Niceness
and
has
just authenticity, right? That you say.
Yes.
Like if that's the focus, then
exactly.
Then there's nothing else to worry about. And go ahead. I feel like you had something to say.
Well, no, I was just saying like the idea about being nice, we don't broach hard subjects because we're being nice, because we're being polite. Oh, no, it's okay that you hurt my feelings. I'm gonna just be nice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So this time in history is not a time to be nice. Mm-hmm. Right. We should still be kind. We should not be intentionally hurtful to one another. Right. But also we can't just let things go because they've always been that way and because we're trying not to hurt people's feelings.
Yeah. And I think that brings up another shift that like of both sides of the conversation need to happen. And like as you're alluding back to like that doctor analogy, which is brilliant and so spot on, that also like the patient has to say what's going on for them. And like it can't just put all of the faith in the doctor. Right. And that's where like as a like I can only call on my experience as like a queer person as the minority of that. Like I hear the narrative of people being like, everyone else has to do the trading, like so that it's the burden's not on me to teach people. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to be put on an island. Like I still want to be spoken to. And it like hurts when somebody doesn't engage with me about my experience. And I feel like that's a subtlety that's getting a bit lost in the movement of like, do your own work and don't engage with like the minority or the underrepresented folks. And that's just like a level of complexity that's like, it's like hard to.
Yeah, so a lot of that narrative comes from exhausted Black people.
Yeah.
Who are tired of saying the same thing over and over again, which I hear and I understand, right? So I also want to just be authentic in that space and say that if you happen to be a Black person and you are watching this video and you're thinking, I don't want to go to that because I don't want to sit in a group and talk about my Blackness, right? Like I hear you, I recognize that, I understand it. And also the conversation is one-sided if you're not there. Like I want your voice in the room, right? We've had people to talk about us for a long time. I don't want to continue that paradigm. I want us to talk with each other about the things that we've experienced and how we've come to experience them, and hopefully together to move forward to do something different. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, I'm really just like letting that wash over me because it's just really powerful of acknowledging how horrible and horrific we've been to each other. Well, as white people to Black people specifically, historically. And just how unfair it is that while everything's being exposed right now, there's still like, it's like the analogy that I think of is all of like the drawers in my house have been emptied. And it's like, I spent so much time organizing them and trying to keep it up and I don't want to deal with it still. And just like that level of exhaustion, just, I also like totally empathize as much as I can with that.
Yeah, it's a peculiar time that we're living in and that we're living through. And it's a strange place to be for people to actually want to hear the stories of Black people and to be like seeking out the story. So having myself been on the receiving end of many of those questions, I totally understand it. And I hear people say, I'm tired. I don't want to fix this for them. I don't want to tell them anymore. I've been telling them, they weren't hearing me. Well, the thing is, people are ready to listen now, right? And so, like, you can't stop talking now.
Yeah.
You can't pick this moment to stop talking, right? We all have to talk, and we're not going to get anywhere if one side stops participating.
How does that, I'm so curious about how that feels, like just that moment of like, oh, now people are ready to listen. Like, what does that bring up, like, for you?
Well, it brings up a lot of things. But if you've ever been in a relationship of any kind, and you've had this ongoing conversation that seems to never change.
Yeah.
For instance, I'm just going to pick a totally female thing, right? Put the toilet seat down. You say this to the male person who occupies the space with you. When you use the restroom, put the toilet seat down, right? There's all these reasons why the toilet seat is up. There's all these reasons why you could just check for yourself before you use the restroom. You don't have to fall in, like all these things that are said. but it's like, it's a very simple ask, right?
Yeah.
You used it, put it down, right? Now, all of a sudden, there's new people in your house, and they're saying, it's really better for your bathroom if you leave the toilet seat down when you're not using it. And then all of a sudden, this same person who you've been telling to put the toilet seat down comes to you and says, it's really better for the bathroom if we keep the toilet seat down. Really? You don't say. That's kind of how I feel. That's kind of how.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure I said those same words. I'm pretty sure I did. But somehow you couldn't hear those words when I said them. But now you don't just want to hear those words. Now you want to tell them to me? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. It's hitting me right now. It feels really powerful. And like, how, if you could control the toilet seat dynamic situation and that shift, how would you have wanted that to go?
I would want the person to hear me say, I would really prefer it if the toilet seat was down when you're finished
Right.
with it, and to just do that because you care enough about me and my feelings and what I said to honor them and do what I asked you to do.
Yep.
And not wait for somebody else who you think is somehow more intelligent, or their words mean more, or whatever, to now say the same thing that I just said, that I've been saying. Not that I just said a minute ago, but I've said multiple times. Mm-hmm. But now it sounds like new information to you. And now you want to come tell me this brand new information that I know I said already.
Like, I am 100% certain that I've been living and breathing this with you.
Yeah, like, I'm pretty sure that I not just said it, but I showed you evidence of how it was impacting me, right? Yeah. Wet pants from when I fell in. Do you see my wet pants? Like,
yeah.
But that wasn't enough for you. My falling in my wet pants didn't change your behavior. Okay, All right. So then I have to make some conclusions for myself, right? Either you didn't believe me when I told you that it would be better to just leave it down, or you didn't trust my voice enough to honor it, or you didn't care enough about who I am or what I said to listen to me. Either way, this is not a relationship I want to be in. And it seems like a very small thing, right? It seems like, oh, it's just the toilet seat. But when you have years of the toilet seat and other things like it, it's a problem. And then you say, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to participate in this anymore because this person either can't hear me or they don't care. And I'm just going to go where there are no toilet seats. We're just going to go to like straight up bidets. I don't know, whatever happens when there's.
I'm getting a tushy or whatever those things are called.
Whatever the thing, right? Except in this particular situation, where we're talking about race and culture, there's no leaving. Right? I'm still going to wake up every day in this skin, in this body, every day. I'm still going to live in this country every day in this body. Now, I do have an option about whether or not I live in this country, but it's my country as much as it is anybody else's country. So I'm not leaving, right? That's a whole other soapbox, a whole other thing for a whole nother day. Like, I'm not going to get on that soapbox, but I'm not.
I want to go there one day though.
Okay, but I'm not leaving, right? I'm here. And every day when I wake up here, I'm going to wake up in this same skin.
Yeah.
And I can't take it off and I can't change it. And I don't want to. But I do want to be able to coexist peacefully in this country, in this skin. And that's going to take some conversations and some listening. Woosah, friend. My shirt is reminding me to breathe. I'm going to breathe.
I feel like that's just such a beautiful, I just want to sit and not, I don't even know if I have anything else to say other than like, that I want to converse with you. I want to continue to converse with you. And just hearing your experience is like, it's one of those things that's just, I feel there's another section of the forest that I thought I saw clearly, but I didn't. Thank you for that. Another gift of Tracie Jae encounter.
This is the space I'm hoping to create in the world. A space where people feel like they can have this dialogue in a place where they wouldn't necessarily have it, with people they wouldn't necessarily have it with, and that we can all be better for it in the end. So our event, the Portland event, happens on the 25th of July. I don't even know what time it happens because time zones mess me up, and I don't.
It's 4 to 6 in Portland time.
Thank you. 4 to 6 p.m. Portland time. We hope you're there. We hope that you will join us. There is a group of amazing other people, other humans who are helping us lead circles to facilitate these conversations in small groups over shared and guided questions. So the information on how to join will be available through whichever avenue you're seeing this. If it's on Instagram, you'll see it up above. If it's on Facebook, you'll see it down below. It'll also be on YouTube. It'll be both places below. Oh, I love you, Shannon. Thank you so much.
I love you too. Oh my gosh. I feel like a changed human just after this. And I must say that, like, I've told you this before, but one of my greatest takeaways of the 100 Voices event is just getting to know you. And I had someone once tell me to play with imagining that when people walk into a room, to imagine the room is full of water and the ripples that they cause. And for me, you have the most like beautiful ripples that I want I want everyone to experience. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for that. Well, we are rippling together right now, sister.
Yeah, we are.
Thank you.
Thank you.